93.9 WQKE. That was checked by Young Thug. So Batala, pop culture topic. We're going to be talking about some pop culture topics. What's up?
Whatever's popping in culture.
Wow. Oh boy. Okay, so we got a pop culture topic of today. We're talking about minorities. We're talking about the misrepresentations on campus. You know, we're talking about Plattsburgh, universities all over. Basically, talk to us about that. Like, let's recap. Let's go over it, just in case some people don't know, because some people really don't know what's going on.
All right, so let's start out. I'd say let's go to the Midwest real quick.
Missouri, right?
We got Missouri. What happened in Missouri? Former President Tim Wolf resigning due to not addressing controversy of the issue of racism on that campus.
Right.
And the organization, the Black Student Union at that school, Concerned Student 1950, which was actually, they named that organization after the first African American student that was accepted into that university in 1950. They complained about, acts of bigotry on campus, kids drawing swastika on fences in the bathrooms.
Right.
People just yelling out the N-word towards them on campus.
Wow.
And, all of this started really like in September, but everything really, the snowball effect really happened like in October.
Right.
And then, of course, everything just spiraled out of control this past week.
When students get really frustrated about, no answers, not getting any type, no one is getting, reprimanded about, on these, actions. So everyone is just frustrated. We've seen videos where students against students. That one video that we've seen where the student was, he was a journalist, and he's trying to get the story, and other students are just like, I don't want you here. So you kind of see it's student against student, and they're probably trying to cover and talk about the same exact topics, but it's so much frustration and the misrepresentation and the misunderstandings and lack of leadership, by the president on that campus. It's crazy. And we've also, had stuff like this happen at PSU. You want to go into it and talk about that a little bit?
There was the Let's Get Uncomfortable march Monday at 12:30, where students marched from the Education Building, Sibley Hall, all the way to Hawkins Hall.
Right.
And then at Hawkins Hall, students just stood there and listened to other students voice their opinions, voice their frustrations about discrimination, and what's going on campus, especially with the Cardinal Points article.
Right.
But to jump back to Missouri, what the way to really combat racism is you gotta hit them in the pockets. And what Missouri did, and especially the football team, was they suspended team activities for a day.
Right.
And the faculty threatened to walk out.
Right, and the no-eat,
the hunger strike.
The hunger strike, right?
All that plays a big role, because if students are starving, what does that mean? They're not spending,
any money.
Cardinal cash or Missouri Tigers cash or whatever they got up there. They're not spending money on the institution.
Right, exactly.
If the football team's not practicing, well, the coaches have nothing to do.
Right, who's winning games? Who's
exactly.
Nothing.
So the best way to combat racism, granted, what happened in Plattsburgh State is definitely the first step.
Right.
But if we really want to make that, let our voices be heard.
Right.
Just hit them in the pockets.
But we've had a continuance of little issues. Little. I remember, was it last semester with the blackout?
Yes.
We've had our share of little issues, or I guess I've overheard, or was in on the conversation, because people were talking about it as a whole. EOP deemed as the minority group, when there are whites, blacks, Hispanics, every type of race in EOP. But, it was just deemed as there's a lot of knickknacks on this campus as well to address. And like you said, sometimes you gotta hit them in the pockets where it hurts, which is so weird to me though, because as a human being, why can't we have a resolution that doesn't, go into money? Why can't, as a human being, we come to a human understanding? Result not with money.
In an ideal world, that would be the first and last resort, right? But unfortunately, it's 2015. People pay more attention to their phones than they do to their fellow man or woman. So, unfortunately, when we try to have a conversation about race, and even if it's a conversation where the blacks and Latinos are not hostile, and we are trying to really get answers, what happens is our Caucasian and our Asian friends evade the conversation. So we can never. It's uncomfortable, but I mean, if you can't talk about it now, when you get out into the real world, when you're working, when you gotta pay taxes, if you can't handle these issues now while you're in school, where you're allowed to make mistakes, imagine in the real world when you have to face it, exactly as it is.
Or if you have to be the boss. Like, say if you are Asian or white or Hispanic or black. Say you're the boss in a situation where your white counterpart needs help. Are you gonna help him, or are you gonna remember in the back of your head, what went on, the race the issues that race was going on? Like, how do people kind of talk about it and go about it? Kind of starts from a basis at home. Starts from a basis from youth, because if you think it's uncomfortable to talk about now, when you have to hire or fire someone that's white or someone that's black or someone that's Asian, what are you gonna base it on?
You gonna call your assistant to do it? Aren't you the boss? Or you gonna send them a post to say that you fire them on Facebook?
Because you're scared of confrontation, because you think that's what's gonna happen. It's gonna get hostile and deemed crazy. We got young Jeezy. He's being, I guess, attacked because
great segue.
Right. Wow. Come on, Batala.
Jeezy. Snow. The snowman.
Right. But okay, so Jeezy is getting, a lot of backlash from fans, from people everywhere, because he posted a picture of his son that just graduated, right? So everyone is just like, well, not everyone, but people on social media, because this is exactly where it comes from, social media.
Right, it makes people unsocial.
Social, exactly. So everyone's just like, oh, so you make ambiguous music,
trap music,
and your son is graduating. Like, how, and this sparks two different types of conversations. Right. So on one hand, here's an argument or a topic. On one hand, right, why does his son have to be the product of the trap environment?
Voila.
Why can't he have a son that's graduating, right?
So if he would have posted a picture of his son
in a
hood, gang colors, throwing up gang signs, that'd be more acceptable.
Right. And here's the other topic. Here's the other thing. Young Jeezy is faking about his trap life because he wants better for his son.
That's bogus. First of all,
but that's one side.
But people don't understand that the other side, which is the business side. Young Jeezy, granted, he lived that life. Of course, when he started getting money, he stopped living that life. But that doesn't mean he loses validity. His raps lose validity because he's changed. He's evolved.
And here's the other side of the argument that I really, really want to make to you. You teach your son values and morals at home. Why isn't that reflected in your music?
Because that music pays the bills.
Oh man, but okay.
Music. Look, it is what it is. It's the music. It's the music business.
Right,
you gotta master the business
right, but then
music.
This is why I don't agree with Jeezy, because it's okay to teach other children with your music the trap life, but you educate your son about being responsible, being respected, going to college, doing that. So why isn't that reflected in your music as well?
Because just how people said, and this is a flip side. Just how everyone said Jeezy, I'm gonna do the same. Just how people came at Jeezy for him posting that picture of his son who's doing well.
Right.
let's say Jeezy were to rap about, yo, stay in school, get books. Jeezy had a song called My President is Black.
Right.
And people only bumped to the song because Jay-Z was in it,
Right.
not the message of the song.
Right.
And that was like 7, 8 years ago.
So our whole entire topic right now with everything, and we're going to piece it together because you're going to see money. Money.
Money. Well, welcome to the world, Rochelle. You just got a ticket to the freak show. And it costs money.
People do things or do not do things or see your points of view based on money.
But, I feel like we can't relate to we're in the predicament ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of...
You know what it is, too, about trap music? For me, no, not even trap music, but rapping about the drugs and the guns and the violence and the sex and the women and all that. Like, for me, I like August Alsina. August Alsina talks about all that. But you know how he talks about it? He talks about it like, this is what I had to do. This is not really what I wanted to do.
Jeezy's message is the same. It's articulated differently,
right?
Because he's from another social location.
Right, and you
from
can't.
the A.
Right, and you can't really everybody can't be the same.
That's what I'm saying. Jeezy has the same story. It's articulated differently, but he's telling you, I'm a snowman. I had to trap in order to be where I'm at now, and now that I'm here, I don't do that anymore.
Right, but then that also sends the message that I should trap, I should hustle in that way, get where I need to be, and then drop that. How about people just, educate themselves and get it the right way?
Because think about it.
But that's not everybody's story, so
right.
I know.
Here's another thing. Just because he's not selling drugs or what have you on the street doesn't mean now that he's in the business, now that he's in the music business, that doesn't mean he's done trapping. He's still trapping.
He's selling literal drugs.
Those records are drugs. You know what I'm saying?
Drugs.
So now the trap is the studio.
Right.
Now the trap is the tour.
Right.
Now the trap is the tour bus. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
it's a different trap. Granted,
And just for you guys that are listening, trap, we're trying to say the hustle. How
Yeah.
you go about getting your money. We're not the word trap.
Dirty money.
You see? Diddy.
Money that's not, clean. It's not a paycheck. It's legit cold hard cash.
But his business is legitimate. His business is legitimate.
You either go to jail or die getting that kind of money.
Wow.
Simple.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
But
and
we
the brothers
shouldn't be teaching our youth that. I just don't want our youths to be taught that the only way to get on that level is the get rich or dying scheme. What about this? There's that's a false dichotomy.
Of course.
There are other ways to get to the top. That's
See how we started this conversation though. Now there's other factors to that too.
Mm-hmm.
Police brutality,
right?
Racial profiling, the prison industrial complex.
Right.
Brothers that go to jail, they come out, they're not getting hired. So what's the last resort?
They put in the box.
What's the last resort?
Right,
you know what I'm saying? So you can't
blame a thief for thieving if they're hungry.
Exactly, because we're all hungry. Some people just get their food different ways. Should we judge that man or that woman for getting his food the way he does? Who are we to say that? So, I salute Jeezy for having his son go to school.
Right,
and
he did it the right way because he's teaching his son not to be
don't be like me.
Right, exactly. He's teaching his son
go to
not
school.
to be. But the only thing that I have to say about that, the only core message that I have to say about that, and even though it revolves around money, how you get your paycheck, I respect artists like Nas. That even if they came out with their trap songs, they still had an educational song that they threw out there as well. You understand? So it's just like, I'm not just, I know you guys like the trap, I know you guys like the gimmicks, but that's not only what I'm about. I also want to spit the educational truth. I want to, if we get into a complex like that where duality, then we can start to see that, people are not just one singular thing. He could be a trap artist, but be so educated. We know artists like that.
Right, and Jeezy's very educated.
Right.
I've seen him in interviews articulate himself. Right. He sounds like a man that went to school.
I
so
really
he's
like
not
Nick
dumb.
Cannon. Nick Cannon, I've heard him.
All them brothers are smart. They don't have degrees,
really
but they're smart.
Wow.
They're smart.
Where's Khalifa?
Oh, the.
I guess that was a hot button. That was a ding.
Taylor. That was a ding.
That was a
cliche.
Ding. Oh wow! So you call Wiz a cliche? That's crazy. Yeah. Come here.
The Wiz.
Wow. Oh my word. We also got Kirk Franklin. He's apologizing to the LGBT community about his past homophobia. We're seeing the churches, we're seeing religion kind of take in the account of other people.
I don't like when people say things that they know, and I'm not talking about Kirk Franklin specifically, but I'm talking about, and this is what social media does.
Right.
Social media makes it becomes a point people can't express their honest opinions,
right,
for fear that a whole community
is gonna gang up on them.
Is gonna ostracize them and gang up on them.
You're saying how you feel, they're saying how they feel, but if they feel discriminated by what you say, and this goes for everything, if they feel some type of way for what you say, then you get penalized for your own opinion.
But that's worse than telling somebody to shut up. It's like if I'm trying to talk and you're, what? Get out of here. Are you serious? And everyone's ganging up on you, it makes it hard to express yourself. And that's what social media does. I mean, granted, I feel like Kirk Franklin, I feel like that homophobia doesn't go away because he's always in the church, and I'm not saying he didn't change. He probably did change, but if you're in that church setting, there's still folks that still have that mindset. So can we blame folks for still having that mindset? That's just how they feel.
That's how
they're wrong.
That's how
we disagree with them, but we can't tell them they're wrong.
Right.
Or that they shouldn't be able to speak.
Who's to say who knows who's wrong? But this is not a matter of wrong or right. This is a matter of
let the brother speak.
Exactly. I have my opinion. You got your opinion. We disagree. We just disagree. I don't hate you for being a man. I don't hate you for being the woman that you are. That's just not my belief.
I just don't. You could just say I don't agree with that lifestyle. I'm not saying they're horrible people. I don't like it. Da da da. Blah say blah. Keep it pushing. But the whole thing with people trying to, and it's always the LGBTQ community. Like, granted, there's folks, and if we try to act like homophobia doesn't exist, then we're still lying to ourselves,
right?
Because it's still out there. However,
we have the extremists.
Exactly. That it's no different than racism. I can't fault. It's not my fault that person's ignorant.
Right.
That's just them. Mm-hmm. But it shouldn't. I shouldn't let that affect me.
Right. Exactly.
And it's like no one can say anything about the gay community for fear that everyone's gonna jump down their throat.
And that kind of is a something that they've been dealing with for a long time. That's something that they've actually been dealing with for a long time, and now we're feeling how they felt. Because for a very long time, we would jump down the throats of, the LGBT community for being who they were. So now we're on the flip side, and we're feeling the burn. Let's come back full circle. 93.9 WQKE. We're gonna get into some more music. I know the topic is sweet, but when we come back, we're gonna be turning up and talking about the turn up. This is Verse Simmons featuring Jeremiah with All I Want, and this is my song. How low can you go? Can you go down low? All the way to the floor. How low can you go? 93.9 WQKE.